The alarm screamed through the cargo bay as red lights flashed against the metal walls. Captain Hyun-woo gripped the control panel and watched the scanner display with cold sweat running down his face. 3 alien warships were closing in fast, their weapons already charging for another strike. "Get us out of here!" he shouted to his pilot. The ship shook violently as another energy blast hit the shields. Sparks flew from the overhead panels, and somewhere below deck, someone was screaming. Hyun-woo knew they had maybe 30 seconds before those shields failed completely. 30 seconds before the alien fleet turned his ship and his crew into floating debris. "I'm trying!" the pilot yelled back, her hands dancing across the controls. "The jump drive won't engage this close to their ships." Hyun-woo slammed his fist on the panel. They had been so close this time. Just one more run through the blockade, one more delivery of medicine to the colonies on Mars, and they would have made it. But the aliens always knew. They always found them. The ship lurched sideways as the pilot threw them into a desperate spin. Through the viewport, Hyun-woo could see the massive alien vessels that surrounded Earth like a cage of steel and fire. For 73 years, those ships had kept humanity trapped on their own planet, and a few nearby colonies. For 73 years, Earth had been a prison. "Shields at 15%, someone called out. Hyun-woo made his decision. "Cut all power to weapons and life support. Give everything to engines and shields. We're running." "But Captain, we'll suffocate if... We'll be dead in 10 seconds if we don't." "Do it now." The crew moved fast. They had done this before. Too many times. The lights dimmed as power redirected to the critical systems. The temperature dropped immediately. The temperature dropped immediately. Hyun-woo could see his breath in the air. The ship jumped forward with new speed, racing away from the alien warships. They were fast, but the aliens were faster. Another blast hit them, and this time, Hyun-woo heard the horrible sound of hull plating tearing away. They were losing pieces of the ship. 20 seconds to minimum jump distance, the pilot shouted. Those 20 seconds felt like hours. Hyun-woo watched 2 more crew members collapse from lack of oxygen. The cold was biting into his bones. His vision started to blur at the edges, but they were still alive, still flying. "Jump drive engaged, jumping now." The universe twisted around them. And suddenly, they were somewhere else. Safe. Floating in empty space, far from Earth, and far from the alien blockade. Hyun-woo gasped as life support came back online, and warm air flooded the bridge. Around him, his crew did the same, breathing deeply and shaking from cold and fear. "Damage report," Hyun-woo said quietly once he could speak again. Commander Dae-hyun, his second-in-command, checked the systems. His face was grim. "We lost the entire port cargo bay. 7 crew members were in that section. 7 people. 7 friends." Hyun-woo closed his eyes for a moment. That made 34 people they had lost in the past year, trying to break through the quarantine. 34 people who just wanted humanity to be free. "Get us to the hidden dock at Station Delta," Hyun-woo ordered. "We need repairs." The journey took 6 hours. 6 quiet hours where nobody spoke much because they were all thinking about the people they had just lost. When they finally docked, Hyun-woo gathered his remaining crew in the briefing room. Standing beside him was Dr. Ji-won, a thin woman with tired eyes and brilliant mind. She had been working on something for months, something she claimed would change everything. Hyun-woo had asked her to present it today because after losing 7 more people, he needed hope. "Thank you for coming," Dr. Ji-won began, her voice soft but steady. "I know today was difficult. I know we lost good people. But I think I've found a way to end this." She activated a holographic display that showed Earth surrounded by the alien blockade. Hundreds of ships, forming an unbreakable wall. "The Galactic Council's blockade exists in normal space," she explained. "Their ships patrol every possible route in and out of our system. But space has layers, like fabric folded on itself. I've discovered we can slip between those layers. You mean dimensional travel? Commander Daehyun asked. That's theoretical. No one has ever done it. No one human has ever done it, Dr. Ji-won corrected. But the math works. I've run the calculations 1,000 times. We can build a drive that lets us move through dimensional folds. We would appear to vanish from the alien sensors and reappear beyond the blockade. The room erupted in questions. Was it safe? How long would it take to build? What were the risks? Dr. Ji-won answered each one patiently, showing her research and her designs. Young Minji, their engineering prodigy who was barely 20 years old, studied the plans with bright eyes. I can build this, she said. Give me 3 months and a proper workshop, and I can build this. But not everyone was convinced. Commander Daehyun stood up, his face troubled. Even if we can break through the blockade, should we? The Galactic Council quarantined us for a reason. Our first FTL ship destroyed one of their stations and killed thousands of aliens. That was an accident, someone shouted. They don't care, Daehyun shot back. To them, we're violent and reckless. Breaking the quarantine might prove them right. Hyun-woo had been silent, listening to both sides. Now he stood and faced his crew. The scar on his face, a gift from a border skirmish 5 years ago, seemed darker in the dim light. I've been fighting this blockade for 15 years, he said. I've watched friends die. I've seen families torn apart because we can't get medicine or supplies past the alien patrols. I've seen children grow up, never knowing what it's like to see the stars up close. And for what? Because 73 years ago, someone made a mistake? He looked at each person in the room. Every species in the galaxy was young once. Every species made mistakes. But they got second chances. They got to learn and grow and prove themselves. We deserve the same chance. The Council won't see it that way, Daehyun warned. Then we'll make them see it, Hyun-woo replied. We'll break through their blockade, and we'll show them that humans are more than one tragic accident. We're explorers. We're builders. We're survivors. And we won't stay in a cage forever. The crew voted. It wasn't unanimous, but it was clear. They would build Dr. Ji-won's dimensional drive. They would break the quarantine, and they would take back humanity's future. As the meeting ended, and people filed out to begin preparations, Hyun-woo stood alone looking at the hologram of Earth. Somewhere down there, billions of people waited without knowing that their freedom might be coming soon, or that it might cost everything. He just hoped the price wouldn't be too high. 3 months passed like a storm. Minji worked 18 hours every day in the workshop, her hands covered in grease, and her eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. The dimensional drive was coming together piece by piece, but it was the most complex thing she had ever built. One mistake, and the entire ship could be torn apart when they tried to jump between dimensions. Hand me the quantum stabilizer, she said to her assistant without looking up from her work. The device hummed in her hands as she carefully connected it to the main power core. Dr. Ji-won watched from nearby, checking every connection against her calculations. They had become a good team over these months, the young engineer and the brilliant physicist. That's the last primary component, Dr. Ji-won said with a tired smile. Now we just need to test it. Just? Minji laughed without humor. This thing could explode, open a black hole, or scatter our atoms across 17 dimensions. Testing it is the scary part, but they had no choice. Time was running out. Captain Hyun-woo had received disturbing news from their sources inside Earth's government. The Galactic Council was meeting soon to discuss making the quarantine permanent. Not just for another century, but forever. They wanted to seal humanity away from the stars for all time. The news had spread quickly through the resistance. If they were going to act, it had to be now. Ambassador Taeyang, Earth's official representative to the Galactic Council, sent a secret message to Hyun-woo. On the surface, Taeyang appeared to support the quarantine. making speeches about how humanity needed more time to mature. But privately, he had been feeding information to the resistance for years. His message was brief. The vote happens in 6 weeks. After that, there may be no second chances. Move quickly, but carefully. You carry all our hopes. Hyunwoo shared the message with his crew during their evening briefing. They sat in the common room of their hidden station, faces lit by the glow of data screens. The mood was tense. 6 weeks, Commander Daehyun repeated. Can we be ready in 6 weeks? We have to be, Minji replied. She looked exhausted but determined. I'll need volunteers to help with the final installations. And we'll need to test the drive at least once before we try to break through the blockade. I'll help with the installations, said Yuna, their medical officer. She was a quiet woman who usually stayed in the medical bay, but lately she had been coming to more meetings. The quarantine had killed her sister 2 years ago when medicine couldn't reach their colony in time. Yuna wanted to make sure no one else lost family that way. The volunteers raised their hands one by one. They all knew the risks. They all chose to move forward anyway. 2 weeks later, the dimensional drive was installed in their ship, the Defiance. The vessel looked different now, with strange new equipment bolted to the hull and energy conduits running along the outside like glowing veins. It didn't look pretty, but Minji promised it would work. First test in 1 hour, Hyunwoo announced over the ship's communication system. All crew to stations. They flew the Defiance to an empty region of space far from any patrols. If something went wrong, at least they wouldn't endanger anyone else. Dr. Jiwon sat at the new control station they had built specifically for the dimensional drive, her fingers hovering over the controls. Ready when you are, Captain, she said. Hyunwoo took a deep breath. Engage the drive. Short jump, 5 light-years forward. Dr. Jiwon pressed the activation sequence. The dimensional drive hummed to life, building power. The sound grew louder and louder until it felt like the whole ship was vibrating. Then, suddenly, everything changed. The universe seemed to fold around them. Through the viewports, the stars began to shift and blur. But instead of the normal darkness of space, they saw colors that shouldn't exist, shapes that hurt to look at. And for just a moment, Hyunwoo thought he saw something else. Another version of the Defiance, flying alongside them. And then another, and another. What is that? Someone whispered. Alternate realities, Dr. Jiwon said, her voice filled with wonder. We're moving through the space between dimensions. Those are other versions of us, other timelines. The vision lasted only seconds. Then reality snapped back into place, and they were somewhere else. The navigation systems confirmed they had jumped 5 light-years in an instant. The dimensional drive had worked. The crew erupted in cheers. Minji was laughing and crying at the same time. Even Commander Daehyun allowed himself a small smile. They had done it. They had created something the aliens never expected. But the celebration was cut short by an incoming transmission. It was Soo Hee-yun, a former Galactic Council translator who had secretly been helping humanity for years. Her message was marked urgent. Hyunwoo played it for everyone to hear. Soo Hee-yun's face appeared on the screen, and she looked frightened. Hyunwoo, they know, she said quickly. I don't know how, but the Council knows you're planning something. They're reinforcing the blockade around Earth and installing new sensor systems. Whatever you're planning to do, they're preparing for it. The recording ended. The celebration died with it. We have a traitor, Commander Daehyun said flatly. Or they guessed, Hyunwoo replied. Either way, we need to move faster than planned. How soon can we make our attempt? 1-5. 1-5. R5. 1-5. Minji thought for a moment. The drive works, but it's not fully tested. I don't know if it can handle a long jump or multiple jumps in sequence. If we push it too hard, if we wait, the blockade will be impossible to break, Hyunwoo interrupted. Make the ship ready. We go in 3 days. Those 3 days felt like both forever and no time at all. The crew worked around the clock, making final preparations and saying goodbye to friends who weren't coming on the mission. Some people wrote letters to family members, just in case they didn't make it back. On the morning of the 3rd day, something unexpected happened. The station's sensors picked up a small ship approaching. It wasn't broadcasting any identification codes, and it was flying a strange pattern that matched an old resistance signal. Should we run? Commander Daehyun asked. Wait, Hyun-woo said, studying the ship's profile. I know that design. It's not military. The ship docked, and a single person came aboard. It was a woman named Unbi, a xenobiologist who had been studying alien species from afar for years. She carried a bag over her shoulder and wore a determined expression. I heard you're breaking through the blockade, she said without introduction. Take me with you. I've spent my whole life studying aliens through telescopes and stolen data. I want to actually meet them. Hyun-woo studied her for a moment, then nodded. Welcome aboard, but I hope you understand the risk. I understand we're all dead if we stay in this cage forever. Unbi replied. That's risk enough. With Unbi aboard, they made final preparations. Hyun-woo gathered his crew one last time before departure. They stood in the cargo bay, 43 people who were about to attempt the impossible. We're about to break the quarantine, Hyun-woo told them. The Galactic Council will call us criminals. They'll say we're proving that humans are reckless and dangerous. Maybe they're right. Maybe this is reckless. But I'd rather be reckless and free than safe and caged. He paused, looking at each face. If anyone wants to stay behind, now's the time. No shame in it. Nobody moved. Nobody left. Then, let's show the galaxy what humans can do, Hyun-woo said. The Defiance launched from the hidden station and began its approach to Earth. The alien blockade appeared on their sensors. Hundreds of ships forming an impenetrable wall. Warnings flooded their communication system, demanding they turn back. Dimensional drive charging, Dr. Ji-won announced. We'll have one shot at this. Hyun-woo watched the power levels climb. Outside, the alien ships were moving to intercept them. Weapons were powering up. In 30 seconds, they would open fire. Drive at full power, Dr. Ji-won said. Ready to jump. Do it. Hyun-woo ordered. Number 4. Compitu to our number 4. The universe folded. The stars twisted. And the Defiance vanished from the alien's sensors, slipping between dimensions like a ghost through walls. When they reappeared, the blockade was behind them. They were in free space, beyond the quarantine zone. They had done it. After 73 years, humans had broken free. Alarms were screaming across 12 star systems. The Galactic Council's monitoring stations had detected the dimensional distortion when the Defiance jumped through the blockade. Now, every patrol ship within 50 light-years was searching for the escaped human vessel. Inside the Defiance, Captain Hyun-woo studied the navigation charts with Commander Daehyun. They needed to disappear fast. But where could they go? The galaxy was huge, but the Council had eyes everywhere. I'm picking up a signal, their communications officer said suddenly. It's on an old human frequency, one we used before the quarantine. That's impossible, Daehyun replied. No human ships got through the blockade. We're the first. Daehyun replied. 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 Play it, Hyun-woo ordered. Static filled the bridge. Then a voice emerged. A human voice. Unknown vessel. This is Admiral Kehoe of the Free Human Colony. If you can hear this message, follow these coordinates. Welcome to the other side. The coordinates led to a remote system far beyond Council space. in a region marked as unexplored on most maps. It was a 3-day journey, even with their faster-than-light drive. During that time, the crew of the Defiance buzzed with questions and theories. How could there be humans out here? Who was Admiral Kehoe? What was the free human colony? Unbi, the xenobiologist, spent those 3 days glued to her sensors, finally getting to scan actual alien ships and stations as they passed through inhabited systems. Her excitement was infectious, reminding the crew why they had taken this risk in the first place. When they finally reached the coordinates, what they found took everyone's breath away. A small planet orbited a yellow sun, and in orbit around that planet were 23 ships. Human ships, different designs, different sizes, but all clearly built by human hands. How is this possible? Yuna whispered from her station. The answer came when they were escorted down to the planet's surface. A settlement spread across a green valley, home to maybe 5,000 people, and waiting to greet them at the landing pad was an old man with gray hair and hard eyes. Admiral Kehoe. Congratulations on breaking the blockade, Kehoe said as Hyunwoo stepped off the ship. You're about the 40th ship to manage it in the past 70 years. Hyunwoo stared at him. 40th? But Earth thinks no one ever escaped, because the Council makes sure Earth doesn't know, Kehoe explained as he led them through the settlement. Every time someone breaks through, the Council hunts them down or forces them into hiding. They can't let Earth know that escape is possible. It would give people hope. The settlement was incredible. Humans had built homes, farms, and workshops. Children played in the streets. And everywhere Hyunwoo looked, he saw technology that was years ahead of what Earth had. We've been trading with alien species who don't love the Council, Kehoe continued. Turns out there are lots of civilizations that think the Council is too controlling. They've been helping us survive out here, teaching us things, buying our goods. He brought them to a large building in the center of the settlement. Inside, representatives from a dozen alien species were gathered. Unbi's eyes went wide with wonder. This was what she had dreamed of her whole life. A tall alien with blue skin stepped forward. I am Merchant Captain Zelith, it said in perfect human language. Your species makes excellent engineers and traders. We've been doing business with Admiral Kehoe's people for 30 years. Another alien, this one resembling a floating mass of tentacles, spoke through a translation device. The Council claims to speak for all civilizations, but they don't. Many of us believe in freedom of movement and trade. Your quarantine is unjust. Hyunwoo felt like the universe had shifted under his feet. Humanity wasn't alone out here. They had allies, friends, trading partners. The Council's propaganda had been wrong, but not everyone in the Council agreed with the quarantine. Soo-hyun had mentioned in her messages that there were sympathetic members. That night, as the crew of the Defiance settled into guest quarters, they received another transmission from her. Hyunwoo, your escape has caused chaos in the Council chambers. Soo-hyun's message began. Councillor Vitharis is demanding immediate action. He's calling for Earth to be permanently sealed, maybe even destroyed if you don't return. But others are starting to question whether the quarantine was ever justified. Number 4. The message continued. There's going to be a vote in 2 weeks about Earth's future. If you want to save your planet, you need to do something that proves humans deserve freedom. Something big enough that the Council can't ignore it. When Hyunwoo shared this message with Admiral Kehoe, the old man nodded grimly. I know what you need to do, he said. There's a crisis the Council has been dealing with for months. A rogue AI armada is destroying colonies in the outer sectors. The Council's fleets can't stop it, but maybe humans can. Why would we succeed where they failed? Commander Daehyun asked. Because the AI thinks logically, Kehoe explained. It predicts every move the Council's fleets make because they follow standard military doctrine. But humans? We're creative. We improvise. We do things that don't make sense. And that's our advantage. Dr. Jiwan leaned forward with interest. You want us to fight an AI armada? Armada? With 23 ships? 24 if you count the Defiance, Kehoe corrected. And I'm not saying it will be easy. I'm saying it's the kind of impossible task that humans are good at. Hyunwoo looked at his crew. They had already done the impossible by breaking the quarantine. Could they do it again? Eunbi spoke up quietly. If we do this, if we save those colonies, the Council would have to acknowledge us. They would have to see we're not the monsters they think we are. Or they'll see us as weapons, Daehyun warned. Dangerous tools to be locked away. They already see us that way, Yuna said. At least this way. We save lives. We prove we're more than what happened 73 years ago. The discussion continued late into the night. By morning, the decision was made. They would take on the AI Armada. Admiral Kehoe began contacting the other colony ships, calling them back from their trading routes. Within 3 days, all 24 human vessels were gathered. It wasn't an impressive fleet by galactic standards. Most of the ships were converted cargo haulers or old mining vessels. Only a handful were actually designed for combat. But they had something the Council's fleets didn't have. Crews, who had nothing to lose and everything to prove. Merchant Captain Zelith provided intelligence on the AI Armada's last known location. They destroyed a colony on Theta 7 2 days ago, the alien trader said. 300,000 people dead. The Council sent a fleet of 50 warships to engage them. The AI destroyed 40 ships and drove the rest away. End quote. The scene for, quote, for my. The scene for my. 50 warships, Daehyun repeated quietly. And we have 24 cargo ships. We have something else too, Minji said. She had been studying Dr. Jiwan's dimensional drive technology. If I can modify the drive system, we could use it as a weapon. Create dimensional distortions that disrupt electronic systems. Dr. Jiwan's eyes lit up. That could work. AI systems rely on precise calculations. Dimensional distortions would scramble their processing. How long to build it? Hyunwoo asked. 3 days if we work non-stop, Minji replied. And that's if nothing goes wrong. Then we start now. Hyunwoo decided. While Minji and Dr. Jiwan worked on the weapon, the fleet prepared. Pilots trained in simulators. Engineers reinforced ship hulls. Medical teams set up emergency treatment centers. Everyone knew the odds weren't good, but no one talked about turning back. Eunbi spent those 3 days meeting with the alien representatives who were still at the colony. She learned about their cultures, their histories, their fears, and hopes. One alien, an elderly being called Elder Krovax, told her something that stuck in her mind. My species was quarantined once, Krovax said in a wheezing voice. We were considered too violent, too dangerous. But we were given a chance to prove ourselves. We helped stop a plague that was killing millions. After that, the Council welcomed us. Now we are known as peacekeepers. The ancient alien looked at Eunbi with wise eyes. Every species deserves a chance to prove who they truly are. On the morning of the 4th day, Minji and Dr. Jiwan announced their weapon was ready. It wasn't perfect, and it might blow up the Defiance when they used it, but it was their best chance. The fleet launched together, 24 human ships flying in formation toward the AI Armada's last known position. Inside each vessel, crews said quiet goodbyes and made peace with their choices. They were flying toward an enemy that had destroyed 50 military warships. Most of them knew they weren't coming back. But as Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the stars stream past, he felt something unexpected. Hope. For the first time in 73 years, humanity was fighting for something bigger than survival. They were fighting for their place in the galaxy. All ships report ready, Commander Daehyun announced. Then let's show them what humans can do, Hyunwoo said. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed, racing toward their destiny. The AI Armada appeared on their sensors like a swarm of metal locusts. 200 ships, each one controlled by cold logic. and programmed for destruction. They hung in space near the remains of Theta 7 colony, waiting for their next target. "That's a lot more than intelligence reported," Commander Daehyun said quietly. Captain Hyun-woo studied the tactical display on the bridge of the Defiance. Their 24 ships looked pathetically small compared to the enemy fleet. This wasn't a battle. It was suicide. But turning back wasn't an option anymore. "All ships, assume attack formation," Hyun-woo ordered. "Remember the plan. We hit fast, we hit from multiple angles, and we keep them confused." Among the human fleet was a pilot named Minho, flying a small fighter that Admiral Kehoe's people had built from salvaged parts. Minho was young, barely 25, and had a reputation for being cocky, but he was also the best pilot in the colony. "Ready when you are, Captain," Minho's voice came through the communication channel. "Let's show these machines how humans fly." The human fleet split into 3 groups and approached the AI armada from different directions. The AI responded immediately, turning their weapons toward the largest group. That's when Minho and his squadron of 12 fighters broke away and dove straight into the enemy formation. "What is he doing?" Daehyun shouted. "That's not the plan." But Minho knew exactly what he was doing. The AI calculated optimal firing solutions based on predictable flight paths. So Minho flew in ways that made no sense. He spun when he should have climbed, dove when logic said to turn, flew backward while shooting forward. His squadron followed his lead, creating chaos in the AI's targeting systems. "It's working," someone called out from the sensor station. "The AI ships are missing their shots. They can't predict the fighters' movements." Hyun-woo allowed himself a small smile. Humans were messy and illogical. And right now, that was their greatest weapon. But the smile faded when the AI adapted. 10 ships broke away from the main fleet and surrounded Minho's squadron. The fighters were fast, but they were outnumbered. One by one, they started falling. "Minho, get out of there," Hyun-woo ordered. "Not yet, Captain," Minho replied, his voice strained as he dodged another volley of fire. "We're keeping them busy. Use the distraction." The main human fleet pushed forward, firing everything they had at the AI armada. But their weapons barely scratched the enemy's shields. They needed something more. Elisa's now I was not with 30. When the weapons of the problem center, that's when Jinwoo, their cybersecurity expert, spoke up from his station. He had been monitoring the AI's communication patterns. "Captain, I found something. The AI ships are communicating through quantum entanglement. They're sharing targeting data and tactical information instantly. Can you disrupt it?" Dr. Jiwon asked. "Maybe," Jinwoo replied, his fingers flying across his controls. "If I can inject a virus into their quantum communication network, I might be able to slow them down. But I'd need to get close, really close, to their command ship. There." Dr. Sun-hee, their astrophysicist, pointed at the tactical display. "That large ship in the center. The others are orienting themselves around it. That must be the central command node." The command node was deep in the heart of the AI fleet, protected by dozens of other ships. Getting close to it would mean flying through a storm of weapons fire. "I'll take the Defiance in," Hyun-woo decided. "Minji, is the dimensional weapon ready?" Minji looked up from her engineering station. Her face was pale but determined. "Then we better make it count," Hyun-woo replied. He opened the communication channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, concentrate your fire on the enemy's left flank. We need to create an opening for the Defiance to reach the command node." The human fleet turned as one and unleashed everything they had on one section of the AI armada. Missiles, energy weapons, even kinetic projectiles from the old mining ships. It wasn't enough to destroy the AI vessels, but it forced them to focus their shields in that direction. The Defiance shot through the gap, racing toward the command node. Enemy ships immediately moved to intercept. Weapons fire lit up space around them. The ship shook as blast after blast hit their shields. Shields at 60%, someone reported. 50%, 40%. They were still 2 kilometers from the command node. They weren't going to make it. That's when Yuna's medical ship, the Mercy, flew in from the side and positioned itself between the Defiance and the attacking AI vessels. The Mercy wasn't armed, wasn't armored, but it blocked the incoming fire with its own hull. "Yuna, what are you doing?" Hyunwoo shouted into the communication channel. "Saving lives," Yuna replied calmly. "That's what I do." "Now go, Captain. Finish this." The Mercy took hit after hit, its hull burning and breaking apart. But it bought the Defiance precious seconds. Seconds they used to reach the command node. "Jinwoo, do your thing," Hyunwoo ordered. Jinwoo activated his virus program and aimed it at the command node's communication system. The virus flowed through the quantum network like poison through veins, spreading to every AI ship in the Armada. For a moment, the enemy fleet hesitated. Their movements became uncertain. Ships started firing at wrong targets or moving out of formation. "It's working!" Jinwoo shouted. "But it won't last long. They're already adapting to the virus." "Jinwoo, Minji, fire the dimensional weapon," Hyunwoo commanded. Minji activated Dr. Jiwon's modified dimensional drive. The device hummed to life, building power. Then it released a pulse of energy that warped space itself. Dimensional distortions rippled out from the Defiance, hitting every AI ship in range. The effect was devastating. AI systems relied on precise calculations, but the dimensional distortions scrambled their quantum processors. Ships lost targeting locks. Communication networks collapsed. For the first time in the battle, the AI fleet was truly confused, but the weapon had a cost. The Defiance's hull began to crack under the dimensional stress. Alarms screamed as systems failed one after another. "Captain, we need to shut it down," Minji shouted. "The ship can't take much more." "Not yet," Hyunwoo said, watching the tactical display. The AI fleet was in chaos, but they were recovering fast. 5 more seconds. The Defiance groaned like a dying creature. Pieces of the hull were tearing away, but those 5 seconds gave the human fleet time to press their advantage. Admiral Kehoe's ships pushed forward, targeting the disoriented AI vessels. Minho's remaining fighters dove in, taking out communication arrays and sensor arrays. "Now," Hyunwoo ordered. Minji shut down the dimensional weapon. The Defiance stopped shaking, but the damage was done. They were drifting. Systems failing. Barely alive. Through the viewport, Hyunwoo watched the battle continue. Half the AI fleet was destroyed or disabled, but the other half was regrouping, and the human fleet had lost 9 ships. 9 crews who wouldn't be going home. "Jinwoo, can you get back into their network?" Hyunwoo asked. Jinwoo was sweating, his hands shaking. "Captain, to completely shut them down, I'd need to physically interface with the command node's core systems. That means going over there, in person." Everyone on the bridge turned to look at him. Going over there meant leaving the Defiance in a small shuttle, crossing open space filled with weapons fire, boarding the AI command ship, and somehow reaching its core. The chances of survival were almost zero. "I'll do it," Jinwoo said before anyone could argue. Hyunwoo wanted to say no, wanted to find another way, but looking at the tactical display, at the human ships being slowly picked apart, he knew there was no other way. "Take a shuttle," Hyunwoo said quietly. "We'll cover you as long as we can." Jinwoo gathered his equipment and headed to the shuttle bay. As he prepared to launch, Eunbi found him and pressed something into his hand. It was a data chip. "Messages from everyone on the ship," she explained. "In case you make it, and we don't. So people know we tried." Jinwoo smiled sadly and pocketed the chip. Then, he launched into space, flying his tiny shuttle toward the massive AI command node. The human fleet saw what he was doing and moved to protect him. Every ship turned their weapons on the AI vessels between Jinwoo and his target. Admiral Kehoe's flagship took hits meant for the shuttle. Minho's fighter squadron flew suicidal runs to draw enemy fire. Jinwoo's shuttle dodged and weaved through the chaos. Twice he was nearly hit. Once his engines failed, and he had to restart them while spinning out of control. But somehow, impossibly, he reached the command node and attached his shuttle to its hull. Cutting through the outer plating took 10 minutes. Breaking into the core systems took another 5. All the while, the battle raged around him. He could hear explosions through the hull, feel the ship shuddering under weapons fire. Finally, he was in. The AI's core system lay before him, a mass of crystalline processors and quantum computers. Jinwoo pulled out his tools and began working, creating a direct interface between his equipment and the AI's brain. Jinwoo? Status? Hyunwoo's voice crackled through his communication device. I'm in. Jinwoo replied. Uploading the shutdown codes now. This should take about 2 minutes. We don't have 2 minutes, Hyunwoo said. The fleet can't hold much longer. As they're faced with Tizzer, then I better work faster, Jinwoo said. His fingers danced across his controls, writing code and executing commands faster than he ever had before. The AI fought back, trying to lock him out, trying to fry his equipment. But Jinwoo had spent his entire life working with computers. He knew every trick, every exploit, every backdoor. With 30 seconds left before the human fleet collapsed, Jinwoo uploaded the final command. The AI's core systems went dark. And across space, 200 AI ships stopped moving. Their weapons powered down. Their engines went silent. The battle was over. Inside the Defiance, the bridge was silent. They had won. Somehow, they had actually won. But looking at the list of casualties, at the 12 ships they had lost, and the hundreds of crew members who died, victory felt hollow. Hyunwoo opened a channel to retrieve Jinwoo. But there was no response. The shuttle was still attached to the command node, but all its systems were dead. They sent a rescue team, but by the time they reached him, it was too late. Jinwoo had burned himself out, interfacing with the AI. His last act had saved everyone, but cost him everything. As the surviving human ships regrouped and began rescue operations, ships from other species started arriving. The ones the AI had been threatening. The colonies they had been about to attack. They had watched the battle from afar and seen what the humans had done. When they asked who these brave newcomers were, Admiral Kehoe transmitted a simple message. We're humans, and we're here to help. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light. A small fleet of human ships had destroyed the AI armada that the Galactic Council's forces couldn't stop. They had saved 3 colonies and prevented countless deaths. And they had done it with 12 cargo ships and a dozen fighters. Inside the council chambers on the capital world of Centralis, chaos erupted. Councillor Vitharis, who had spent years arguing that humans were too dangerous to be free, stood before the assembled representatives of 300 species. This proves my point exactly, Vitharis shouted, his scales turning dark red with anger. The humans broke their quarantine, stole advanced technology, and interfered with galactic affairs. They must be stopped before they destabilize everything we've built. But another voice rose to challenge him. Elder Krovax, ancient and wise, pulled himself up on his floating platform. His species had been part of the council for 2,000 years, and when he spoke, others listened. They saved lives, Krovax said simply. 3 colonies that we failed to protect. They asked for nothing in return. They simply helped. Is that not what we claim the council does? Help those in need. They're warriors, Vitharis argued. Violent and unpredictable. Every species in this chamber was violent once, Krovax replied. My own people were quarantined 800 years ago, for the same reasons you quarantine humans now. But we were given a chance to prove ourselves. We were allowed to demonstrate that we could be more than our worst moments. The humans have earned that same chance. The debate continued for hours. Some species agreed with Vitharis, arguing that the quarantine should become permanent. Others sided with Krovax, saying that humanity had proven their worth. The council was divided down the middle. On Earth, people had no idea what was happening in the stars above. The quarantine kept them isolated, unaware that their fate was being decided by beings they had never met. But in the halls of power, one person knew everything. Chancellor Wu Jin had recently been elected as Earth's new leader, and he had been secretly receiving messages from Ambassador Taeyang about the situation. Wu Jin was a careful man who thought deeply before acting. He had spent his life studying history, and he knew that this moment would define humanity's future for generations. If the Council decided to make the quarantine permanent, Earth would be a prison forever. But if they could convince the Council to lift it, humanity would join the galactic community. He made his decision. Despite the quarantine, despite the blockade, he would go to Centralis himself and speak before the Council. It was an absurd plan. Earth was sealed off. No ships could leave. But Wu Jin had resources that most people didn't know about. He contacted Captain Hyun Woo on a secret channel. "I need passage to Centralis," Wu Jin said. "I'm going to address the Council personally." Hyun Woo, still recovering from the battle with the AI Armada, stared at the message in disbelief. "The Defiance is barely functional. We lost half our systems fighting the AI, and even if we could fly, sneaking through the blockade twice would be impossible." "Then I'll find another way," Wu Jin replied. "This is too important to leave to chance." Admiral Kehoe, listening to the conversation, had an idea. "There's an old smuggling route through the asteroid belt. The Council doesn't patrol it heavily because the asteroids are full of radiation that scrambles sensors. If we could get a small ship through there, I'll pilot it," Minho said immediately. The young pilot had survived the battle with the AI, but just barely. His fighter had been destroyed, and he had spent 2 days in a medical tank, but his spirit was unbroken. "I know how to fly through places I shouldn't." 3 days later, a small shuttle carrying Chancellor Wu Jin and 6 others slipped through the asteroid belt and passed the blockade. Minho piloted with the same crazy skill he had shown against the AI, dodging asteroids and sensor drones. They made it through by sheer luck and skill. But Wu Jin wasn't traveling alone. He had brought someone special with him, a young girl named Hana, 12 years old, who had never seen the stars up close because she had lived her entire life under quarantine. Wu Jin had chosen her carefully. She represented the future, the generation that deserved better than a cage. When the shuttle landed on Centralis, Wu Jin expected to be arrested immediately. Instead, Ambassador Taeyang was waiting with a smile. "The Council has agreed to hear you," Taeyang explained. "Elder Krovax convinced them, but you'll only have one chance. Make it count." Quote, 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 quote. The council chamber was overwhelming. Representatives from 300 species filled a space so large that Wu Jin couldn't see the far walls. Each species sat in sections designed for their unique biology. Some breathed different atmospheres and sat in sealed environments. Others floated in tanks of liquid. A few existed as pure energy beings behind containment fields. Wu Jin walked to the center of the chamber with Hana at his side. Every eye, lens, sensor, and consciousness in the room focused on them. He felt the weight of their judgment, like physical pressure. "I am Chancellor Wu Jin of Earth," he began, his voice amplified by technology he didn't understand. "I come before you, not to make excuses, but to tell you the truth about humanity." He paused, gathering his thoughts. 73 years ago, humans made a terrible mistake. Our first faster-than-light vessel malfunctioned and destroyed a diplomatic station. Thousands died. It was a tragedy, and we have carried that guilt for 3 generations. Counselor Vitharis interrupted. "You broke your quarantine. You violated council law." "We broke a law that was unjust," Wu Jin replied calmly. "A law that punished children for the mistakes of their great-grandparents. A law that said an entire species must be imprisoned forever because of one accident. He looked around the chamber, meeting the gazes of as many beings as he could. Every species in this room has made mistakes. Every civilization has had accidents, conflicts, and tragedies in their past. But you were allowed to learn from those mistakes. You were allowed to grow, to change, to prove you could be better. Humans deserve that same opportunity. Elder Krovax spoke up from his platform. Tell them about the AI Armada, Chancellor. Wujin nodded. Recently, a fleet of human ships destroyed an AI threat that Council forces couldn't stop. They saved 3 colonies and prevented countless deaths. They didn't do it for glory or reward. They did it because it was the right thing to do. That is who humans are. Young Hana stepped forward, and her small voice somehow carried through the massive chamber. I'm 12 years old, she said. I've never been beyond Earth's moon. I've never met aliens except in pictures. I've never seen the things you all take for granted. Is it fair that I must stay in a cage because of something that happened before I was born? The chamber fell silent. Hana's simple question cut through all the political arguments and reached something deeper. She was just a child, asking for a chance at a future. Merchant Captain Zelith, the alien trader who had been helping the human colonies, stood up in his section. I have done business with humans for 30 years, he announced. They are honest, creative, and excellent partners. The Council claims to promote trade and cooperation between species. How can we do that if we keep an entire civilization locked away? Other voices began to speak up. Representatives from the species that humans had saved from the AI. Scientists who were interested in human technology, like the dimensional drive. Even a few military leaders who were impressed by human tactical creativity. But Councillor Vatharis wasn't finished. They are dangerous, he insisted. They broke through our blockade. They developed weapons we didn't know were possible. If we allow them freedom, they will threaten the peace we have built. Elder Krovax floated down to the center of the chamber, positioning himself beside Wujin and Hana. My species was once called dangerous too, he said to the entire council. We were warriors who solved problems with violence. The council quarantined us for 200 years. But then, a plague swept through the southern sectors, and council forces couldn't contain it. My people volunteered to help, even though we were still imprisoned. We risked our lives to save species that had feared us. After that, the council invited us to join. Today, we are known as peacekeepers and mediators. We became what we needed to be when given the chance. He turned to look at Vetharis. Every species deserves a chance to prove who they truly are. The humans have proven themselves. They saved lives when they could have simply escaped. They helped others when they could have helped only themselves. That is the mark of a species ready to join us. The council called for a vote. The process took hours as each species debated internally before casting their decision. Wujin stood in the center of the chamber with Hana, waiting for judgment. His hands were shaking, but he kept his face calm. Finally, the council speaker announced the results. By a vote of 173 to 127, the council has decided to lift the quarantine on Earth and extend an invitation for humanity to join the Galactic Council as probationary members. Wujin's knees nearly gave out with relief. Hana grabbed his hand and squeezed tight, tears running down her face. They had done it. After 73 years, humanity was finally free. But the speaker wasn't finished. However, this freedom comes with conditions. Earth must demonstrate continued, peaceful cooperation. Any acts of aggression or violation of galactic law will result in immediate re-quarantine. Furthermore, the humans who broke the original blockade must face trial for their actions. Wujin's relief turned to concern. Trial? For what crime? For breaking the quarantine, Vetharis said with satisfaction. They violated council law. There must be consequences. Ambassador Taeyang stepped forward quickly. The council has lifted the quarantine, which means the law they broke no longer exists. How can they be punished for violating a law that is no longer valid? The council debated this point for another hour before finally deciding that the humans who broke the blockade would receive pardons in recognition of their service against the AI armada. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was good enough. 3 months later, the alien blockade around Earth dissolved. Ships that had formed an impenetrable cage for 73 years now created a welcoming formation. The first official diplomatic vessels from other species began arriving to establish embassies. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges were organized. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the Defiance, now fully repaired and designated as Earth's first official exploration vessel. But he wasn't planning to command it anymore. He had been offered a position as an instructor at the new Galactic Navigation Academy being built on Earth's moon. "I've spent enough time fighting," he told Commander Daehyun. "Now I want to teach the next generation how to explore the stars peacefully." Daehyun would take command of the Defiance, leading it on mapping expeditions to unexplored regions. Minji had been recruited by multiple species to help design new ships, incorporating dimensional drive technology. Dr. Jiwon was setting up a research institute that would be attended by students from across the galaxy. Yuna had survived the battle, though her medical ship had been destroyed. Now she was working at a hospital on Centralis, treating patients from dozens of species and learning alien medicine. Yoonbi had achieved her dream of studying alien life up close and was writing a book about her experiences. Admiral Kehoe's colony was no longer hidden. They had been officially recognized and given protected status. The old man had finally been able to visit Earth again after 50 years away, and he wept when he saw the blue planet without a blockade around it. On Earth, young Hana looked up at the night sky from her home. For the first time in her life, she could see ships coming and going freely. Lights moving among the stars. Proof that humanity was no longer alone or imprisoned. In the council chambers on Centralis, Elder Krovax watched recordings of the vote. He had fought hard for humanity's freedom, and he was pleased with the outcome. But he also knew this was just the beginning. Humanity would face challenges ahead, tests of their ability to work with other species peacefully. Some would be skeptical of them for years to come, but Krovax had faith. He had seen what humans could do when pushed to their limits. They had broken an unbreakable blockade. They had defeated an enemy that threatened the entire galaxy. They had proven they could be more than their worst moment. And most importantly, they had shown they could reach out their hands in friendship rather than make fists. The galaxy was big, strange, and full of wonders. Now, finally, humanity would get to experience all of it, not as prisoners or outcasts, but as equals, as explorers, as friends. The quarantine was over. The real journey was just beginning.